welcome. It's Brian, and today we're not doing guitar solo reactions, but we are going to do another list from this website, uDiscovermusic. This popped up a couple days ago, and the first list was the 50 great jazz guitar players of all time. I agreed with all of them for the most part. A really nice list. This website covers all sorts of stuff, like from R&B to, I didn't see any metal. I didn't really search a lot, but like they cover a lot of ground. So hopefully this bass list holds up to the jazz guitarist list, because that was a great list. And this is of all time. So I guess you have to take that into consideration, that there probably won't be a lot of new players, but I just had to do the bass one as well. So we are going to start at 55 because there's 55, and I will move through them as fast as possible or slowly. I'm not sure. So we are going to start with Steve Harris from Iron Maiden. Iconic, great rock player. You know, I love Iron Maiden. Cool player. 54 is Billy Sheehan. We know him from Steve Vai, Tallis, David Lee Roth, Mr. Big, and incredible player. Seems like a really great guy. I know him from the first Michael Schenker solo record. I believe he was on that, or it was a Doomed thing. I think he might have maybe only made a couple of songs, something like that. But his band from Buffalo, New York, Tallis, I remember reading about a lot. So next is John Myung from Dream Theater. Great player, super technical. I'm not a Dream Theater fan. Marcus Miller, great player with Miles, did a lot of the pop and stuff. Incredible feel. Bob Babbitt, I don't know who that is. It sounds like he was kind of a Motown guy, kind of like a James Jamerson, but after the James was gone. Another one that I don't know, Mel Schroeder from Grand Funk Railroad. I don't want to say no, he's not a good bass player, but I have no idea. I know who Grand Funk Railroad is. I've listened to it, I guess, but I don't know if he's a great bass player or not. Esperanza Spalding is the next one here, and I don't know anything about her. She's got a lot of notoriety. She seems like she's cool, does a lot of cool stuff. People talk about her a lot, so cool. She's great. Kim Gordon from Sonic Youth, maybe, cool band, but I don't know about a bass playing. Gail Ann Dorsey, I don't know Gail. She sounds like she played with Eric Clapton and David Bowie. Oh, I think I know who she is, actually. She is a great bass player, if it's who I'm thinking of. Bill Wyman from the Rolling Stones, sure. Nick Lowe, another guy that's been around for a long time, big producer mostly. I guess he's a bass player. I'm trying to think of the band he was in. So, yeah, I'll say sure. Next is Mike Watt from the Minutemen and Firehose. Yes, I'll say he's a great player. I've actually seen him. Dave Pegg is 43. Definitely great player. With Jethro Tull and Fairport Convention. I love both of those bands. Next is Joey Spintanato from NRBQ. No idea. Super iconic American band that toured nonstop probably for decades. No idea. I've never listened to them. Outside of maybe seeing them on Austin City Limits or something. Chasm Sultan with Todd Rundgren and the Blackhearts, that band. I guess he was in Utopia. I can't say I know anything about him or really Todd Rundgren outside of a few hits. Bruce Thomas, The Attractions. Elvis Costello's bass player, I'm assuming. Yeah, I'm sure he's good. Phil Lesh, yeah, I mean, I know Phil enough that he's got a great mind for music and playing like the modulus graphite bass with a pick. I think he usually used a pick, kind of a cool approach to bass playing. Next is Mike Rutherford from Genesis. 30 is at number 38. Yeah, definitely a great or really creative bass player and creative guitar player. I wouldn't maybe say great at both, but definitely could do it. Next at 37 is Tina Weymouth, which I think she's a highly underrated bass player for just really laying down a great groove, and I think she's amazing. 36 is Cliff Burton, definitely, he was the best part of that band. So great player. Next is Michelle Negolancello. I think that's how you pronounce it. I've definitely heard her when she first kind of came out and kind of did stuff, and totally unique player, great player. Can't say I listen to her now or have recently, but I definitely loved it back when she first came out. Sting, I think, is a good bass player just because he's a great musician, has a great sense of melody and harmony. So, yeah, I'll say he's a great bass player. Victor Wooten from the Flecktones and his own stuff, yes, he's an incredible player and really unique and a virtuoso. Can't say I think I bought the first Bella Fleck record and loved it, but all those guys seemed incredibly cool. Victor still gets around. He seems very humble, but I don't know much about his playing since that first Bella Fleck record. Percy Heath from Modern Jazz Quartet, Miles Davis. Yes, he is a great player. I dig all upright players that can stand with those guys for sure. Jerry Sheff, he was with Elvis. I don't know. Chuck Rainey, definitely know Chuck. Great player, great feel. Just one of those really foundational players in the kind of 70s session scene, whether it's Steely Dan or other players he played with. Definitely great. Louis Johnson from the Brothers Johnson, hell yes, great player. Dave Hood from the Swampers, never heard of them, so I don't know. Charlie Hayden is a very, I love his playing. He's a very understated player from his work with Pat Metheny and, God, I don't know. I mean, that's what I know him from, is basically Pat Metheny and, I was going to say Keith Jarrett Trio or something like that. But he always seemed really like he could just lay it down. You know, he was not a chops dude per se. Next at 26 is Bernard Odom. He was with James Brown. I don't know him. Next is Aston Barrett from Bob Marley. I'm going to say yes from what I know from him. But that's Bob Marley is not someone I necessarily have listened to a lot of. So I definitely love that type of rhythm feel, and I'm really familiar with Sly and Robbie, and so yeah, I'll say he's a great player. Les Claypool, of course, we know him from Primus and everything else he does. I think a totally unique player, and came out of nowhere and was successful, and played the bass, with a lot of creative like approaches, and just he's cool. Jack Cassidy, everyone talks about him. I'm gonna say yeah, he's probably a great player. That was 23. Number 22 is huge in my book. Geezer Butler kind of defined metal playing, at least in the early 70s, for a Steve Harris or any of those kind of new wave of British metal bands. He actively played. He came from that Jack Bruce kind of arena where it kind of busy playing, but defined the song. And I think Geezer for Black Sabbath did less of the kind of meandering kind of playing that a Jack Bruce would do, but still played a lot over the neck and just defined a song. And totally unique band. Next at 21, I couldn't agree more. This one and Geezer Butler should be in the top 10 for me. That would be John Paul Jones, a highly underrated, incredible bass player that knew all the right notes to play and just had an incredible feel. Bootsy Collins, absolutely. A great, cool dude that's done lots of stuff with Bill Laswell and Material and Buckethead and many, many others, plus his own stuff. Plus, he was James Brown's bass player when he was, I think, 17. Incredible player. Next is 19, Donald Duck Dunn. Yeah, he was in Booker T and the MGs and a bunch of stuff, the Blues Brothers, all of that. All those guys were from that scene. Yeah, I'm going to say he's great. George Porter, the Meters. I love the Meters. I didn't know his name, so I'm going to say he's great just because I love the Meters. Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers. Yeah, I mean, he really brought bass to the forefront, kind of like a Les Claypool, but with Flea, it's like more in your face. Like the bass in that band is equal parts with the guitar and the rhythm section and the vocals. I mean, in fact, a lot of times the bass defines the kind of vocal stuff. That was 17. Number 16 is another huge player that I love who passed away not that long ago, and that is John Wetton. He did incredible work with King Crimson. He was a very incredible. He was a great singer, an incredible bass player, just great, powerful lines. So, a great bass player for sure in my book. 15, excuse me, isn't huge in my book, and that's Geddy Lee from Rush. Again, kind of a player that comes from that Jack Bruce kind of like, lots of notes kind of in a way, but he just nailed it, and everything he played was perfect, and I love that band. Number 14 is Lemmy from Motorhead. I'm going to say he's an iconic bass player and a really revolutionary and defined that kind of really aggressive, gnarly, tone a Rickenbacker through. I don't know, he probably played through a Marshall bass amp or whatever. I don't even know Marshall made bass amps, but incredible player. I would not say he's an amazing bass player, but I love Lemmy. So Charles Mingus, incredible upright player, whether he's bowing or just doing kind of just traditional, whatever you call it, finger work or whatever, and great bass player for sure, and an incredible composer as well. Jack Bruce, I've talked about him. I think he's great. Love him. Bill Black from Elvis Presley, have no idea. Willie Dixon, I don't know anything about him. I thought he was a guitar player or just like a blues guy, but it says he was a great bassist, so I'll say sure. Ron Carter was in many of my favorite bands with Miles, and he's still around. He's still an amazing player. Yeah, definitely an icon for sure. Larry Graham from Sly and the Family Stone, absolutely. He defined kind of funk playing at its kind of going from a soul to an soul and R&B thing to more of a funk thing. He's that bridge, I believe. James Jamerson from the Funk Brothers, yeah, of course. John Entwistle from the Who. Again, he's that cool 70s thing where they had lots of cool technique. I'm going to say, yeah, he's a great bass player. I don't listen to The Who or like The Who really necessarily, or necessarily his playing, but it's definitely great. Chris Squire from Yes, 100%. Incredible player, not because of all the notes he played, because they were always the right ones, or the unpredictable ones. Always good. Stanley Clarke is an incredible player that I don't think I've ever seen someone play the upright and bend strings like he does. The bass, when he's playing his ambelic, I just happened to watch this, the Return to Forever reunion tour, which I saw, and the highlight is his bass solo. When I saw them live, I didn't think this, but this version, he just, man, it's not about the chops part, but it's just an incredible bass solo. And then when he's playing, his 4-string, ambelic bass, it seems tiny, and it's like he could bend the strings like anything. So incredible player. I love his approach. Really interesting. He was doing was he the first to do like plucked harmonic and then you slide it up? Kind of a unique technique that I think he kind of came up with. I know Jocko did stuff like that too, but I kind of want to think he was doing that. Maybe it was on upright. It seems like you would have to do it like you would hit the harmonic and fret the note and slide it. So it would probably have to be on the upright. Anyway, cool player. Carole King, a foundational player for the Wrecking Crew and all the records they recorded on, and that she probably played on thousands of tracks, and just an incredible foundational player, and definitely well deserved to be in this top 10. Paul McCartney, yeah, an amazing composer of our time. I think as a bass player, again, not technically, it's like a Chris Squire thing. He picked all the right notes, but and just amazing musician to boot. So Jaco Pastorius, of course, would be number one for reinventing the bass, essentially. And I believe there was other fretless players out there before him. I mean, I don't know the history of players around Jaco, but he defined all the harmonics. The way he approached the bass was so unique, funky, and really melodic and aggressive, and just really an inspiring person. I mean, I don't know of another bass player that has inspired so many people to take up a certain technique, like you would with guitar. Like Eddie Van Halen inspired, hundreds of thousands of players to start tapping, and Jocko inspired many, many bass players to start playing fretless. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not saying he's the originator of that idea, but his influence is enormous and still is today. And same with Eddie Van Halen. You can't see a modern player. All modern rock players, for the most part, that are in that younger 20 to 30 age range, have tapping involved. It's like integrated into their style, much like Eddie Van Halen did, but in a far more natural, musically interesting way. And the same with Jocko. Uh, there's so many great players that came from Jocko. Bunny Brunel is one that always comes to mind. Um, Jeff Berlin, although Jeff Berlin doesn't play fretless, uh, the guy in the Firm, the bass player, I can't remember his name, Tony Franklin. He was a fretless player. The guy in Kajagoogoo, I'm talking the 80s pop music. And that's just the start of it. And then there's a whole bunch of other people that came after him that made the fretless their main instrument. So hugely inspirational. Hey, so I am Brian. I mostly do guitar reactions. I do some guitar playing and I do some editorial stuff like this. And if I see lists, I like to comment on them, and that's what we're doing today. So I appreciate you checking this out, and please come back.